You've seen online the beaches, the warm weather, the laptop lifestyle and cafes and friendly people everywhere. Living this lifestyle for more than 6 months, it's not what it's cracked out to be. In today's video, I'm going to talk about various problems that I have dealt with being a digital nomad as a Brit. Before I dive in, make sure to subscribe if you enjoy this type of content and if you get value out of it. So I've been living in Malaysia for almost 4 months while also living in Vietnam for more than 2 months first time. I'm currently on my second visa run in Malaysia. Both are very underrated countries, especially Malaysia, as I get along with the people very well. I live in the quiet side of Malaysia, having everything I need around me, and I honestly look forward to the days while the weather in Malaysia can be volatile. Every single day this month, well, almost every single day in the morning can be very sunny up until the afternoon, and then in the evenings it is raining, which can be frustrating, which is what I've been dealing with consistently here. So why did I become a digital nomad in the first place? I've lived in the UK my whole life, living in Wales for more than 20 years, which is my hometown, and 2 years in England while working in both of these places. Honestly, since 2024, I've become very miserable and unhappy, and I wasn't doing much up there besides working and being in my room majority of the time, which is very common amongst people up there. It got to the point towards the end of last year, around November, where I got so sick and tired of that lifestyle where I didn't enjoy most of my days. I realized that it wasn't for me and it's not worth living there anymore. So I decided to book a one-way flight to Malaysia. And I was very surprised when I landed here how great the weather is. It brought me happiness, and usually in UK the weather's really bad, and it was just a new scenery for me. But in the future, I'm going to make a video about why I left the UK and the problems that I faced, which could be a great insight for you guys, and how I prepare myself prior to leaving so you guys could either get motivated or apply exactly what I have done. So now I'm going to talk about all the problems that I've encountered with this digital nomad life, except for one, which I will leave towards the end. Now, the first problem is loneliness, right? And this has been a huge problem in my life right now where I have to socialize consistently to really make me feel better. I think for us, as human beings, it's important to socialize with others, which is very, I would say, uncommon where I grew up. I don't know why. I think it's because of maybe phones and social media, but a lot of people where I grew up just very closed off, where they'll be aware that you're in front of them but choose not to speak to you, which I have encountered in the past. Whereas the countries that I've been to, for example, Malaysia and Vietnam, you will meet somebody today and the next day you'll probably not see them again. And the reason behind this is people are on different journeys and have different goals. Majority of the time I am always on my own, which can be very difficult at times, as I mentioned earlier, because I do want to hang out with the same people, not different people, for a long time. It's just my personality. I mean, long term, not long time. But what helps me a lot on this digital nomad journey is being a part of a WhatsApp group, which I highly recommend, where people honestly help each other out. They answer questions. I've sent questions and people answered them. People host meetups, which have been happening consistently in Vietnam, Da Nang, I think in Thailand and Indonesia, which I personally haven't been to, especially when I was in Da Nang. And the reason because I just feel as though I probably won't see those people again, and I really don't want to waste my time. It just I like being around same people, and I also like to be by myself to recharge, right? And sometimes it can be too much when I be by myself, where I've recently been socializing, but a problem that's connected with loneliness was during these 6 months of being a digital nomad, I isolated myself, right? Barely going outside, only if I was picking up food order or going to the gym. And a lot of it came down to me being very sensitive to society, which you could feel that when you close yourself off from the world, where you might not like how people speak to you, behave towards you, which makes you want to go back to isolation, right? Which can be very addictive. This did not help me mentally, so I decided recently to socialize with staff members by looking at them in the eye, purposely asking them for help, smiling and greeting them, right? And going for walks, which is very underrated for me without headphones, swimming as well, which for me, swimming is a stress relief, and going to a bookstore to read about something which gets my mind off my negative thoughts. Now, while I'm dealing with loneliness on this journey, I was for the 6 months, well, for the whole year since I was in the UK, constantly battling negative thoughts where it became a way of life where I didn't even know how it felt to have positive thoughts. It was just very difficult to get out of negative thoughts, especially when you're in your room a lot. And these negative thoughts that I had, guys, it just never would fucking leave me alone. So being in my hotel room just didn't help. So I have to always from now on moving forward to be outside just to calm my mind and to stay focused. So the next problem is you don't have a stable place to live, which for me really drains me, man. And I remember coming to Malaysia on my first visa, going to different hotels, and I really hated, packing up, then leaving these hotels. So now my second visa run here, which I'm currently doing for 3 months each on a tourist visa. I've been staying in one hotel for almost 3 months now, and it has everything that I need to work, to relax, and is in a very convenient location. But in the future, I really need to get an apartment or a condo to build and to honestly build a good rapport with the landlord, which will help me a lot, and to pay less on rent, which is very cheap here. But for some people, they probably won't mind jumping to different hotels. But for me, because of my personality, I just hate it so much. And like I said earlier, I need a place to live just so I can remove the stress on just going on Goda app to constantly look for hotels and to book in advance and to be just, I don't want to be worried about is these rooms going to be available or rooms being taken, and it will just save me a lot of stress where I can contact someone on WhatsApp and they can just save the apartment for me for a specific amount of time, and I could uh just get in and just prepare myself, right? And for me, when I book hotels, I usually book a week in advance, which I don't think is a good idea where people book in months time. But this is the power of digital nomad lifestyle I really don't enjoy, which is looking for different hotels. So the next problem that I hate so much about this lifestyle, which is honestly me just talking about various problems that I hate about this digital nomad life, which you guys, I hope that you get value from, that you learn from, coming from a guy that's actually living this lifestyle, is airports, right? There's just so many people in these airports, and I honestly hate waiting in queues, which is, I think it's probably such a stupid thing to say. Like, obviously in airports, it's going to be people there, but like I said before, with my personality, it just drains me because I like to be by myself to recharge myself, and I don't like to be in these types of environments, but I have to be in these environments just to change up the visa, right? Restart the visas. But sitting in economy flight, man, it just doesn't cut it for me. And I honestly just can't be the only one who doesn't feel comfortable in my seat. It just feels very tight. But I guess you get what you pay for, right? That saying I heard living in back home. But every time I'm on these flights, I just can't wait for it to be over with. And I just wish I can teleport to my hotel. But even when I was in London Heathrow Airport, guys, coming to Malaysia, and the fucking flight was 14 hours, and I honestly just sitting in, I can't remember where I was sitting, and it was just like this cafe, I think. And I just wanted to die, man. Just, I was feeling just so much pain. I just couldn't imagine going for a 14-hour flight. But every time I'm on these flights, like I said earlier, just can't wait for it to finish. But you also probably will not know if it's going to be really busy depending on the month, which can be a problem. I read on articles as well where in Malaysia, the airport Kuala Lumpur, which is the airport a lot of people go through, and I think there was a period where it was really, really busy, which I wasn't at the airport, thankfully. But I seen this article a few times, which I, at this stage of my life, don't have control over. So I could book a flight for a specific day, which for me, I usually book um, in the weekdays, like a Tuesday or Monday, just so I dodge the long queues. But this is something you can't control. If it's gonna be busy, it's gonna be busy, right? Depending on the month or if it's a big event on. But this problem in itself gives me the motivation to make more money so I don't have to deal with this problem in the future. Now, for some people, this might be okay, just waiting at airports, especially if you are with someone, which can help you a lot emotionally. But for me, it's just a no-go, man. And I seriously need a 12-month visa here in Malaysia, as I really like this country a lot, and it will make it easier for me since I think I have quickly adapted here and I know my spots here as well to go get whatever I need. It's very slow pace where I live, as I said earlier in this video, and I can stay at one place. And flying once a year is okay, but every 3 months, it just gets too much for me, man. And low-key Malaysia, it's just such a dope place, man. The people overall here are very friendly to me. They speak good English, so I don't have to use Google Translator much. But most importantly, my life here is just way better than how it was in the UK. For the first time after a long time, I just look forward to doing things which I really lacked back home. So the next problem is the language barrier. I have dealt with this a lot in Vietnam where I had to constantly use Google Translator. And sometimes I would write something in English to translate in Vietnamese and it ends up coming out wrong, which I'm not sure why that happens, which I've dealt with sometimes. But I don't mind using Google Translate in these types of countries, but this is the reason why I'm drawn towards Malaysia. The reason being because every person I encountered with speak good English and they understand it as well. I rarely use Google Translator here, but example I can give you is today I was in 99 Speed Mart, which is a well-known convenience store in Malaysia, and I asked the female staff member inside if she could show me where the grapefruit jasmine tea is from the brand Cha. I'm not sure if that's the way to pronounce it, CHA, and she showed me where it was. and I didn't have to use Google Translator for that, which was super convenient. Now, I'm not sure how could this be the case that majority of the people understand English. Maybe they learn it in school or is encouraged by elders here. But the more I get older, I realize the English language just becomes very valuable whichever country you go to, especially in the first world countries. And I can't stress enough how lucky I am to know this language fluently. Now, this is where it gets funny. So, where I was back home, there's a saying where I grew up that they sometimes, well, when I used to talk to my friends and neighbors, that they would say it sounds funny in my language but not in English, which kind of relates to the language barrier problem that I was talking about earlier, where you might write something in English on Google Translator and it means something else in another language where the locals probably won't understand. Alright, so the next problem is getting in trouble. So I think some of you, a lot of you are aware of this when you get on this digital nomad life. It's common seeing it with Dubai and the countries that I'm gonna mention shortly, where this can get really ugly, guys. So you might be on the safe side where you live, where you come from, but it's vastly different in whichever country you choose to live. And it's very important to be aware and to really think before you make these types of decisions, because it does get ugly, and to adapt as well, which is very important, to adapt, to respect the locals, which I can't stress enough on the in this video that I'm making right now. And it's very common in Thailand, in Philippines and Colombia, where people put themselves in situations that they can avoid, such as getting arrested, which I've seen articles of, getting robbed by a local woman, and going broke, right? This is one of the reasons as to why I won't ever go to those countries that are listed, because I don't want to end up like some of the people putting themselves in these situations. It's the reason why I hate partying and drinking, because I can make myself as a target in these types of environments. Now, I'm a huge fan of drinking wine and champagne, as it calms my mind and it really helps me. The music sounds better. I like the low intake of alcohol. 7 to 8% is a good intake for alcohol when it comes to wine. I think champagne is about 10 or 13%. I could be wrong, I'm not sure. But for me, beer and heavy intake alcohol is a no go for me. But when I was on my first visa run in Malaysia, I remember sleeping in my hotel room, and all of a sudden, some guy just stormed inside my room looking dead inside my eye. And I stared back at him, and then he left. And as the door is shut, I was like, bro, what the hell was that? I just, woke up. I got out of the my room. I was just so confused. And just in the hotel going upstairs, and it was just a group of guys. The guy took out his card, showed me where he was from, or what, why he's in the hotel. And it turns out that they were going inside each hotel room to track down people that overstayed their visa, which is very common here in Malaysia. But getting into trouble is something to avoid, because as I said earlier, I read online, I've seen recommended videos of the outcome it can have on people, and it can get very ugly. So it's very important, guys, to be aware. Now, another problem you might deal with is you could be a target as a foreigner, where you might get overcharged for certain goods and services. I've probably been through this. I'm not sure, maybe for hotels, but the amount of times I've been asked in Malaysia, where am I from? It's been honestly a lot. You don't have to say a word, and just by the way you look, people will instantly know, oh yeah, this person is just not from here. Now, Malaysia is considered safe from what somebody told me, from what I've read on Google, and from experience. Like where I'm living now, I was out by myself at 1, 2 a.m., which something I shouldn't have done, but I never faced any problems. But in the future, I'm definitely not doing that ever again. Things can go wrong anytime. But I remember one time where I walked into a phone shop here and I was asking if they sell phone tripods as I really needed one. They never had it in stock, so the guy let me pick one on TikTok shop. And I stayed in touch with the guy on WhatsApp, which is very common communication tool here. He updated me on it and came on a motorbike by my hotel to hand the parcel to me, which I genuinely appreciated of this guy. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this story is because he told me he was going to close the store for good and move to another location. So this guy could have just cut contact with me, but he didn't, which I really liked the update and just him being trustworthy. The moment I walked into the store, the guy that ordered the tripod for me on the the TikTok shop, he recommended me different spots in Malaysia that I can explore, which I definitely appreciated of him because he didn't have to do that. Now, the final problem that you might deal with, now this is something that I haven't dealt with for 6 months. The reason being because I never been on dates and I've been avoiding women. And another problem that I never dealt with in the past was trouble, as I try my best to stay out of it and be very respectful and aware because I know how ugly things can get. And that is women, right? So, out of all problems, why did I mention this? As we all know that women are very important part to a man's life. I don't care what anybody says, but it's the reason why people rise up in this world, whether they want to become a CEO, CFO, COO, businessman, or get a high paying job. All of it stems from attracting women, whether that man knows it or not, right? And I heard this a few times from people. I've seen recommendations on YouTube that some local women they will marry you just to get a passport from a first world country, and once that's achieved, then they will divorce you, right? And I'm not saying that all women are like this, but this is a very common thing, and it's something that I personally have zero tolerance for because the worst thing you can do to someone that you marry or fall in love with is to deceive them instead of being honest. And it's important as a man to be very logical rather than thinking with your dick because it's most likely won't end well. You'll put yourself in an ugly situation, regret it, and it will cause you a lot of pain. But just you being a foreigner, you're looked at as a jackpot, which could be a blessing or a curse, depending on your perspective. But this is a very short chapter, but I had to mention, even though I've said earlier that this is not something I've been through, and even the trouble side I've just never, been through. So these are all the problems that I could think of being a digital nomad that I experienced for more than 6 months. Only two of them I've never experienced, which is with women and getting into trouble. Getting into trouble is something I try my best to avoid. But overall, I like this lifestyle a lot more than my life back in the UK. I just can't tell you how terrible my life was back home where I grew up, which I'll make a separate video on why I left the UK and my frustrations with the country. I think it's a very good topic to talk about that a lot of you can get insights on. But I'm going to end it here. But for now, take care.